So today we're going to be creating volume spheres inside of Cinema 4D and Octane. It's going to kind of be like the tutorial I made a few weeks ago. I'm not going to waste time on the intro. Check out myself, I store my assets. These very project files are going to be up there. And without wasting your time, let's make some volume spheres. Yeah, volume sphere, yeah. Let's go. Okay, so the look I'm going to be concentrating on today was kind of coming from the first couple of renders that I did around the volume sphere thing, and it's honestly such a similar process to the last volume builder tutorial, but it's a bit of a different artistic direction and I think it's valuable to go over. So I think it's a lot of fun to use primitive shapes to obtain the look as opposed to complex models. It makes the subject matter rely on the actual volume effect much more. So if you have any trouble following along, be sure to check out the volume project files on my Selfie. I did post them a few weeks ago when I made the initial volume builder tutorial, and if you've already bought them, don't worry, you'll receive an update to the files with the new ones to coincide with this tutorial. So what we'll do is we'll just get started, and of course we'll drop in a sphere, and I'm going to drop in a camera that's dead centered in Z-space and just move back there. And we don't have to worry about the segments because thankfully volume builder does that for us. So if we drop in the builder and the mesher and we shift C and random field, and that's everything we're going to need now until we add in some fog layer. So what we can do is just drop the sphere in the volume builder and drop the random field in the volume builder. Now usually I would come to view settings and turn off the view plane preview because it gets in the way a little bit and it's a little bit annoying. So then what we can do is in the volume builder we can bring the voxel size to about 2. The detail isn't really going to kick in till between about 1 and 0.5. Go below 0.5 and things are going to get slow, and personally I think with this look we're going to be using the electric noise to get a nice kind of puffiness to it. If you go below 0.5 it gets too detailed and you kind of lose the nice part of the look anyway. So we're going to change this to subtract, and you can see it's doing its thing now. So in the random field, if we change the random mode to noise, and I think somewhere around 1800 is a good size, we probably going to want to tweak that. But then in the sphere, if we do perfect primitive, grab the mesher, put the builder in the mesher, and we're done. So what we can do is maybe do 1200. I think that looks okay. But what we're going to do is change it to electric, and now you can see we're getting these nice kind of ripples on the inside, and we can turn this around, get a look that we kind of like. I think maybe bringing this back down to a 900 looks good, and that's kind of something I'm happy with. So you get this kind of sphere that's slightly ripped apart. I think any render I've done with a sphere, I've used electric. So that's our sphere setup, nice and simple. So now we're going to move on to Octane. So what we can do is just move into path tracing here, grab a Octane camera tag and move in a little bit closer, and I'll set up my lighting. So I'm going to drop in a HDRI and just kind of a black background. So now you can see we've kind of got the scene filled out a nice amount. It looks quite alright. I'm going to experiment with the sphere a little bit more. These things do take a little bit of messing about to get to a point where you're happy with. It's just kind of how these renders work, and unfortunately in a tutorial you can't always spend all your time doing something, putting a random number there, messing with something, going back and forth, because that's going to confuse you. You're going to attempt to go back and forth to follow with me, so I may have to put up with something I'm not 100% happy with, but it's just about the method of showing you how you're going to achieve this result and how you're going to get this render to look the way you want it to, which is the most important part. So I'm maybe going to attempt about 1200 and cut off the main bulk of the sphere. Changing the random field from subtract to intersect is a good way to get a bit more of a ripped apart look when it comes to the sphere, and I think this is probably the way I approached the spheres the first time I did it. I can't quite remember. Next up, we're going to add in our background. So we'll just press F2 here. You've seen me use this trick a million times. Come into perspective, and we'll use 4000 by 4000. We're going to drop in a bend, and we're going to drop in a subdivision surface. We're going to hit fit parent, and we'll do 90. We'll spin that once there, and we'll spin that again. And I'm just going to bring this down to about 20. So we've got a nice kind of sharp corner, and I'm going to bring the floor down. I don't really want the floor to be visible here when I'm adding in lights, so I'm going to back it up a little bit. Again, like I said, very similar composition to the first volume builders tutorial, but today we're concentrating on a much different look. So now what we can do is just save our file. Okay, so next up we're going to make the material, and to get that kind of satisfying look, I am going to use a subsurface scattering material. So we'll just pop that on the mesher, and then what we'll do is we will change our index and we'll kind of give it that glass look, put up our roughness, and then drop in a scattering medium, and I don't know what kind of colors I'm going to use. We'll figure that out in a second. And now what we can do is mess with our density, maybe go for somewhere around 30-40, and I have no idea what color I want to approach this render with. I did use kind of this chocolatey look the first time, and I think we could probably get away with that here, especially if we jump right into adding our lights. Now, one thing I'm noticing is the detailing just isn't keeping up now, so if we come to about 0.7 and then approach our way to 0.5 when we're looking at doing a full render, like I said, you go down to 0.2, it's not really going to look that nice, it's going to lose the nice bumpiness it's got to it, so we'll stick with this for now. But next up, we're going to do a little bit of lighting. So we'll drop in an area light, and we'll zoom out to this camera, and we'll use some fall off maps, bump up the power there, and if we just move this out to the side, in fact I'll do the other side first, I'm going to make it a little bit taller, move it back, and then we can get this nice, really intense light across the volume, and we can even mess with the way this is positioned a bit to see how much we want it to be affected by the light. And then if we come back into the node editor, this is where you can kind of tweak with it a little bit and see if you want the light to jump through it a little bit more or make it a bit more dense. I'm going to leave it somewhere in between for now. And with this light, I may duplicate it and turn it off and bring it above and see what kind of look this gives us. And we could even do some neat tricks by turning our camera to cause a little bit of loss of awareness when it comes to looking at it, and it adds a nice vibe to my renders as I want to describe it, which is something you're never really going to pick up on. And I could even add one more light, turn that first one off, and see how it looks on this side. Getting that back side of the sphere lit up, and then we could turn it towards and see how that looks. Could look better, could look worse, we'll find out. Maybe it's time to change our scale to something like 400 and get a bit more of the sphere shape back if we're using intersect. Or in fact that takes it away, so let's do 1400. I thought, yeah, going bigger would give more of it back. So yeah, something a bit like this. Okay, so why I'm spinning around this light to try and get this scene looking somewhat nice, I thought I would make the time a little bit more useful rather than cutting it out, and give you a bit of information about myself I store. So over there's a bunch of products and assets, anything that might help you with your next project. Everything there is royalty free completely. There's forest packs, there's these volume files you're looking at right now. You can rip them out of the project files and then take them elsewhere into your projects, your daily renders, whatever it is. The forest packs are one that are so useful. You can get the car packs to then take the car materials and do what you want with them, or you could take the terrain packs to get the height maps to then use in the background of one of your renders. Whatever it is, I'm sure you'll find some benefit from it. So yeah, be sure to go check it out. First link in the description. Now I'm pretty sure I'm probably done spinning the light by now. Okay, so I'm happy with my lighting position here. I just used the light on the left here and kind of kept it the way I did it to begin with. What we can do now is start adding a little bit of camera effects, so we can add some bloom and we can add a lot into the scene. And then what we can do is do a little bit of pre-grading to make sure the image is not blown out and it's nice and flat and ready for when we're actually going to grade it. And we can kind of leave that just like that. Now there was an effect that I did on quite a few of these renders, which was subtle in some of them and not so much in others. I'm going to go over that right now, and it was definitely an effect I was quite proud of, and it's just a noise, so we're going to do that here. So if you just pile everything into a mixed material and put that on the mesher, and then if we grab a noise and we put that in the amount, and we'll just put a transform and a projection on the noise, change it to spherical, and then what we can do is bump up our contrast. Just gotta make sure you're getting a good amount of contrast there, and then unlock your aspect ratio and bump up the X value and start bringing down the Y. Something like this looks nice. And now what we do is we get this really nice effect across the inside of the sphere that's being affected by the noise, and it gives it this almost kind of liquidy look, like you're hydro dipping something, and I was obsessed with this. So then if we come back and we mess with our gamma and our noise, definitely makes for some interesting looks. I think something a little bit like that, it definitely gives it that candy look. And if you grab the noise, plug it into the bump here, and then it's going to be raised ever so slightly, especially if you were to do this and add a multiply, add a float, plug the noise into that, a float into that, plug that into the bump, set this to something like 10, and now the bump's going to be a bit more prominent. And then if we switch this out for glossy and bump up our roughness, it's going to catch light in a bit of a better way, and that's always nice. And then under the scattering medium, I'm going to lighten this up a bit and get a bit more noise going through it, and that's definitely a look I like. And another trick I did a lot when doing these renders, and it's something I've done in my renders in the past, and I find it loses your sense of awareness in the world a little bit, and it really helps sell your renders when you're doing these kind of abstract looks. And I'm just going to turn the camera around like this until something's going on that goes against your intentionality from when you were lighting. Because when you were lighting, you often, you're doing your primitive lighting routines, your key light, your fill light, your hair light above, and it's hard to anticipate getting a look like what you're looking at right now when you follow those routines. And those routines are amazing to follow. To then flip that on its head by spinning the camera around in a completely unrealistic way that you can't do in real life, it gives you abstract lighting, even though you're just looking at your same lighting routines, your key light, your fill light, and your light above. Even though I'm only using a key light right now, if I slap the other two on, which I will do approaching final render, and then mess with the intensity of them and the color of them, so I'll take you through that as well. So I'm just going to control S here. The render's looking good. Typically I would just put a diffuse material on the background to accent the color that we're looking at in the volume sphere here, but I'm actually going to leave it white because I think the white squiggles accent that and gives it a good bit of unity, so we'll leave that there. We'll call this key light, and we'll call this, now this is where I have to jump out the camera to see because I've spun around, we'll call this hair, and we'll call this fit. So what we'll do with the hair light is it's still going to be affecting the same parts even though the camera's turned around, but we can bring down the intensity of that, and I'm going to make it slightly orange. I'm going to push it off to the right a little bit, and we'll just make sure they're all not visible. Oh, and we'll make sure they've all got the same sampling rate. And I'll maybe bring that out a little bit, thin it out, just so the right side here is coated in orange. And then with our fill light, I'm gonna bring down our intensity of that there, and then that side's now filling out. And I may even get a little bit cheeky and add in a second fill, thin that out, bring it under the sphere, and we'll turn all of them off so we can see what we're working with. And I'll maybe turn that towards blue a little bit. Turn back on our key and our hair and our fill, and I don't like the blue, so I'm going to turn it off. And I may even get away with bringing this down a bit more, and I think that makes for some nice lighting. You could even see where you want to take your camera, mess with it, make it look awesome. Always looks cool. Next thing, volume. So the last few I did, I used Volume Builder. I used some trees and some, not volume. But what I'll probably do today is not use any VDBs, but just do it all inside of Octane. So we'll pop some of them in. So I've just gave the scene a little bit of a tidy approaching, adding in the volumes. One thing I will do is I think it's maybe a little bit bad to leave the background completely untextured. I think you probably want to apply material even if you are going to leave it white. I didn't mean to make that glossy. And I mean, we could see how it looks if we were to add in a darker color. I just think it's going to look better in white, so I'm maybe going to slightly hint at it like that, but I'm not going to do any more. What we will do though is, like I was saying, is use the fog volume. Control S constantly because we're in a bit of a dodgy situation now. And we'll do 200 by 200 by 200. Now this was something I was fiddling with a lot to get looking good. And I'm not going to do that here, but I will show you how I did it. So if we bring down our step length, and I'm just going to make sure that this is a good size, so make this all 300. And we'll bring down the size, and then I'm going to duplicate this sphere and pop it in the volume there. And now the volume is going to be bound to the sphere. And turn off our edge feather. Maybe just keep a little bit of it. Bring down the size a bit more. I'm going to really bring up the density. I'm going to make these a bit more grey. Maybe not that grey. Okay, that looks good. And now what we can do is start messing with the noise to get something a little bit more crisp. And I'm going to use electric for the noise, and I'm going to use maybe something around 1500. And I'm going to try and make it a bit more harsh. In fact, let's try 1100. And then what you can do is start turning it around. Be wary if you've got a bit of a slower CPU here, or GPU for that matter. And as you can see already, I'd be here for quite a while spinning this around, so maybe try 600. And you can also increase the size of your sphere a little bit just to help it fill out. And then back in the noise. Maybe I'll try a different noise. Knacky. Maybe that will give us a better look. You never ever know. Doesn't seem to be affecting it that much. I'm probably not going to waste too much time on it. Maybe bring down the size. Bring down your step length. Get that density really up there. The scattering phase can make a bit of a difference as well, especially to how much we can see it. I think that looks okay. I do like it taking the shape of the sphere and then kind of going with that a little bit so it looks like it's under the same volume. And I think that's why using electric and using the same noise that you maybe used for the sphere is a good thing to do, because if we look at this right now, I don't know if it's supposed to be filled out like that, but we've got a volume sphere just like we had before, and then if you chip away at that, you've got two electric noises, and it gives a little bit of continuity. I think that's a good way to describe it. Okay, so I've played with that enough now and got it looking good. I didn't want to sit there rambling, toying with it. Just to show you what I did, I put my density way up. And it actually wasn't even anything to do with any of my values in here. I stuck this to 800. It was just that the part of the sphere we were seeing was just full. So you can see that it looks like it's being affected by the same noise. It looks nice. I don't think it goes or suits every one of these renders, but it certainly adds to them quite a bit. Maybe see this looks with a bit of contrast. A bit more saturation. See how a different camera angle maybe looks. You could absolutely play with this for days on end. I remember one of the first few times I attempted this, spinning the volume to get it somewhere I liked for like an hour, and I eventually just had to tell myself, no, you're done. And I'm going to end up doing it again now, and then you're going to get bored and click off the video. So we'll probably just leave it there. Let's give it one more spin. Maybe another. That looks pretty good. What I will do though, so I'll just turn it off. I like it better like this. that is going to conclude my volume spheres. This kind of looks like a lollipop. Stick a cylinder on it, you know? Experiment. Make it look like a JQ render. See that? Lower your density enough. You're gonna see it straight away. We just made a lollipop. You see, it's that simple. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna go over. There is your volume spheres. Very satisfying stuff. Go crazy with it. Look at my last renders I did, you know? You had the trees, you had the marble textures, you had the VDBs. It's a lot of fun. Be sure to check out these project files on my Selfie store. The project file from this very tutorial you saw me make will be up there. I may even put this one on my Insta. It came out so nice. So go and check that out. If you've already bought the volume files, you'll get an update with these files. So that's how we do things. I really want to see what renders people come out with from these ones, so tag me in that beautiful stuff. And thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.